PCVR gaming gets you way better visuals and access to thousands of new games and mods that make gaming on your wireless VR headset absolutely insane. But if your streaming software isn't tweaked just right for you, you'll get sick from laggy and jagged gameplay. Today, I'm going to cover virtual desktop setup and settings. Welcome programs to part 11 of my 13 video course on wireless PCVR gaming. This is the complete guide, so if you want to know what good truly looks like and how to get it, then stay locked, enjoy, and I hope it helps. If you want to follow along with this complete course, check the links in the description to the other videos and for the equipment I use personally. I'd strongly recommend you watch from the first video, and I'll tell you when to skip videos based on your specific VR setup. With that said, let's talk gaming. When it comes to which games you can stream from your PC to your headset, they can either be from the Steam store or the MetaQuest Link VR game store, which was previously the Oculus store on your PC. So if you want to play PC VR games from the Steam library on your PC, download and install Steam on your PC, open it up, and then go to the Steam store and search for SteamVR. Click this one here and then install SteamVR on your PC. If you want to play Oculus or MetaQuest Link games from your PC, check the links in the description of this video to download and save the MetaQuest Link /Oculus setup app to your PC. Install it and log into your MetaQuest account to access your MetaQuest Link game library and the store where you can buy PC VR games. Now let's look at the software you need to stream those PC VR games from your chosen PC game library to your VR headset wirelessly. The options you have are Virtual Desktop, which is made by Guy Godin, Steam Link, which is made by Valve, and Airlink, which is made by Meta, formerly Oculus. I'll go right out and say it, Virtual Desktop is hands down the best of the three in terms of features and visual quality. It supports both Oculus or Meta and Steam VR games. It's $25 US when it's not on sale, and it's worth every single cent of that. It's also easy to use once I show you how it works. If you want to go the free route though, the next best option alternates between Meta's Airlink, which can also play Oculus/Meta and SteamVR PC VR games, and Valve's Steam Link. Airlink is more flexible and better than you think once you dive into a couple of hidden options, which I'll show you in the last video in this course. And Steam Link can play SteamVR PC VR games only, but even when you tweak the software properly, it's not quite as good as Airlink when it works, and nowhere near as good as Virtual Desktop. From here, you'll need to install the Virtual Desktop Streamer app on your PC, which streams your VR games to your headset wirelessly. You'll also need the Virtual Desktop app from the Quest Store on your VR headset, which plays those streamed PC VR games in your headset. Do not buy Virtual Desktop from Steam. This is for wired headsets. This mixed reviews is because of people buying Virtual Desktop here thinking they can use it for their wireless headset. So to get the Virtual Desktop Streamer app on your PC, go to vrdesktop.net. Click this button to download and save the streamer app on your PC. Then install it and follow all the prompts until you get to the finish. Now, to get the Virtual Desktop app onto your Quest or Pico headset, grab your VR headset and go to the App Store. Search for Virtual Desktop in here and install it on your headset. Now you have all the software you need back on your PC. Fire up the virtual desktop streamer app. If you get a warning prompt come up, read what it says and it will tell you what software conflicts you may have that can potentially cause issues and how to fix them. For me, my VPN doesn't end up causing a connection issue, so I just close this out and carry on. Now, go to the About tab first and check for updates. This should always be kept up to date. On the Accounts tab, enter your Meta or Pico username in here. This username can be found in your VR headset when you click on your profile icon, click Edit Profile, and under Username. So back on your PC, enter that username in here and hit Save. Now in the Options tab, this is where you'll set your first lot of game streaming quality settings. For the preferred codec, if you are playing fast-paced games like online shooters or Beat Saber, you want the lowest latency, so select H.264 or preferably H.264+, if you have a good Wi-Fi network and it's available to you. For slower paced games, you can spare a bit of latency in exchange for better quality visuals, so HEVC or the improved HEVC 10-bit will be better for you. And if you have a Quest 3 and have an NVIDIA 40 series or AMD 7000 series or higher graphics card, and you're playing slower paced games, then the AV1 10-bit codec is the one you want. It's a bit heavier to run overall, but it looks gorgeous. Essentially, in terms of latency, they go from best to worst this way, and in terms of visual quality, they go from best to worst this way at the same bit rates. You'll experiment with these settings depending on what type of game you are playing, but this is the best starting point. And here's some further info from the virtual desktop Discord server. Adaptive quantization is a GPU encoder feature that helps improve visual quality and can reduce smear in faster paced games. This doesn't affect frame rate and it helps to reduce compression artifacts in dark scenes in-game. Leave this on, especially if you have a 30 series card or higher, and if you find it impacts your image quality negatively, which it can do on some NVIDIA 20 series cards, then turn it off. Pass encoding can improve visual quality, but only enable this if you have extra GPU performance power to spare, as it's a bit heavier to run. And I'll show you how to tell if that's you or not shortly. For the OpenXR runtime, have this set to automatic, and if you've been looking into OpenXR, then you'll know about selecting the VDXR option here when it's needed. Set the gamepad emulation to automatic, and in the audio streaming dropdown, you can set where you want your audio to be heard. If you want sound to come out of your VR headset, select VR headset. If you want sound to only come out of your computer speakers, then select computer. And if you want sound to come out of both your VR headset and your computer speakers at the same time, say if you're casting your gameplay to your PC's monitor and you want other people to hear the sound as well, select VR headset and computer. If you are selecting computer or VR headset and computer, go to your desktop's taskbar and in Windows 10, click on the speaker icon and then your speaker output's name. Or if you're on Windows 11, click on the speaker icon and go to the sound output menu. Now set this to the speakers you want sound to come out of. I have my computer plugged into a Samsung TV, and so I'd select the Samsung speaker option here. Yours may say Realtek speakers or something like that. If you're not sure which one is the right speaker option, just try them all until you get sound coming out of your speakers when you're in VR. If you still don't get sound, make sure that you have volume turned up here and the volume is up on your VR headset. If that doesn't work, exit and restart the streamer app. And if that still fails, restart your PC and then your VR headset and try again. Now, copy all the other settings I have here, but in particular, make sure allow remote connections, encrypt local traffic, and automatically adjust bitrate are all unticked. Now, if you take a look at the Advanced tab, here you can shrink your field of view in VR using these two sliders, so that your PC doesn't render as many pixels while you're gaming. This gives your PC extra performance headroom to spare, so you can get lower latency and crank up the visual quality settings in VR further than you normally could. But it also introduces black bars on the top and bottom and the sides of your vision in VR as you decrease these sliders. What setting is best for you depends on what VR headset you are using, your IPD and facial interface distance from your eyes, which I covered in the last video in this course, what type of game you are playing, and your personal preference. I'm using a Quest 3, and with my setup, I put this at 90 horizontal and 85 vertical whenever I need a slight performance boost, or I'll go down to 85 and 70 if I really need to get some extra performance happening. Anything less than that, and for me, the effect is too noticeable, which I don't like. And if the game I'm playing runs perfectly, I leave these at 100. The FOV stencil can only be enabled when these sliders are both at 100%. Untick this if you're going to record your VR gameplay with something like OpenXR mirror capture in OBS, otherwise leave it ticked. And you can tick the boost game priority if you are experiencing game freezes in VR, otherwise just leave this unticked. You'll need to restart SteamVR, which I'll get to in a minute, for changes in these settings to take effect, and I would definitely recommend tweaking this to your personal preference. Now the streamer app is all set up on your PC, jump back into VR and start up the virtual desktop app you installed there. On first startup, allow it access to your microphone and the headset storage. You'll be dropped into virtual desktop, and on first startup, you'll hear a voice telling you where to launch games from, but we'll come back to that in a second. For now, if you hit the menu button on your left Quest controller, you can show and hide this menu. On the Computers tab, you will see your PC listed here. Click on that to connect to it, and after a few moments, you'll see your PC's desktop right in front of you. If it doesn't connect here, go back over to your PC and check that virtual desktop isn't doing an automatic update in the background. If it is, let it run and then launch virtual desktop again. This actually catches me out more than I'd like to admit. Back in the side menu, you'll see up top the frequency band your headset is connected to, which should be 5 or 6 gigahertz. You'll see the IP address that has been given to your headset on this network, and you'll notice this has the same 3 sets of network ID numbers as your standalone or dedicated VR router's IP address, because they are all on the same network. You'll also see the maximum theoretical rate that your router and VR headset can transmit data between each other. If you're using a Quest 1, this will max out at 866 megabits per second. Quest 2 will max out at 1200 megabits per second, and Quest 3, 3S or Pro can all hit 2400 megabits per second, provided you are using a Wi-Fi 6, 6E or Wi-Fi 7 router with a 160 megahertz channel width set on the 5 or 6 gigahertz frequency bands. If you are using the 6th setup with your PC as a VR hotspot, if this is anything less than 866 megabits per second for Quest 1 or 1200 megabits per second for any of the other headsets, get yourself a dedicated VR router and go with one of those setups instead, because your current connection speed is too slow. If you go to the Environments tab, you can choose a background environment, and the Games tab is where you will always launch your games from. Don't launch them from SteamVR or the MetaQuest Link app. Always launch your VR games from here. And you can see Virtual Desktop has separated my Oculus/Meta games and my SteamVR games. In the Input tab, leave everything as default. Then in the Settings menu, you can set these to whatever you want, or pause this video and copy my settings here. These settings will mostly affect this virtual environment that you're in right now. I like the environment quality high, the frame rate at 90 FPS, the bitrate maxed out, screen brightness at 100%, and some increased color vibrance. Moving on to the streaming menu, this is where the magic happens, and these are the three main settings that will determine the quality of your VR experience: the resolution or VR graphics quality of your game, the frame rate of your game, and the bitrate that your game is playing in your VR headset. You'll need to balance these settings with each other depending on how good your setup is and what type of VR game you are playing. The first thing you want to set is your VR graphics quality. This increases or decreases the resolution of your game when you're in VR, similar to if you were to choose 1080p or 4K in a traditional non-VR game. Changing this setting will impact your PC's performance, and higher settings mean a higher quality image in VR, but only if you have a PC that can handle it. Conveniently, you can just pick the model of your PC's graphics card or its equivalent in here and leave it at that for now. With your VR frame rate or FPS, similar to a non-VR game, this also impacts your PC's performance. Quest 1 users are stuck at 72 Hz, but for any other headset, if you are playing slower paced games like Skyrim VR, Half-Life Alyx or VR Chat, you can set this to a lower frame rate like 72 or 80 FPS to save a bit of PC processing power, and it will still look mint. If you are playing faster paced games like Beat Saber, Contractors or Population 1, you'll want a faster frame rate like 90 FPS, which gets you lower latency so you don't miss a beat. If you have a Quest 2, 3 or 3S, you can also go right up to 120 FPS. I would only recommend 120 Hz for lighter games and if your PC can handle it. Higher frame rates mean lower latency, which is good, but your setup needs to be able to handle that higher amount of data smoothly. Then there's your VR bitrate. This is the rate the video stream is running at between your PC and your VR headset, and this is dependent on your Wi-Fi network's performance. This bitrate will also have a different maximum setting depending on which codec you chose in the streamer app. For example, AV1 goes up to 200 megabits per second, but H.264 Plus goes all the way up to 500 megabits per second. The higher this is set on each codec, the better quality visuals you will see in VR. But the better your VR Wi-Fi network will need to be to cope with the amount of data you are trying to send over Wi-Fi at once. And so your VR graphics quality or resolution and your VR frame rate depend on the power of your PC, where the VR bitrate is the rate at which all of that resolution and frame rate game data is being streamed wirelessly from your PC to your VR headset. So this depends on your Wi-Fi network. If you have a mad PC that can push a ton of frames, but a crap Wi-Fi network, or a perfect Wi-Fi network, but you are pushing your PC beyond its limits, things will start to fall to pieces. The trick is to experiment with these three settings for each game to get the best out of them, while also keeping a consistent and stable connection without jitter or lag. And the cool thing about Virtual Desktop is it will show you exactly where your setup is falling down while you are gaming, so you can troubleshoot easily, which I'll show you in a second. For now, set the resolution based on your graphics card, then the frame rate depending on which type of game you are playing, and then start with your bitrate at half the max setting. Once you've been gaming in VR for a bit, if it's all good, ease your bitrate upwards and go again until you find the limit. Then ease back a fraction from there to give it some headroom. If you find that you need to set a super low bitrate just to get it playable, then lower your resolution and frame rate so you can bring your bitrate up to a rate that looks good for you. From here, I'd recommend setting sharpening to 75%, as 100% can look a bit too sharp. The VR pass-through settings unticked unless you want to see these things while you're in game, and the gamma to 1.0. SSW or synchronous space warp can give you a massive performance boost by essentially cutting the frame rate in half on your PC, and then the headset creates fake frames after each real PC frame, so that what you see in VR is the full frame rate. This can be a positive if your PC isn't powerful enough to run a game full tilt, but you'll get weird artifacts, and to me it never feels quite right, which is a massive negative. It's personal preference, but I always have this disabled for a more native feel. You can set this to always be on or set it to automatically kick in only when your PC can't handle the jandle. In the advanced options, the Snapdragon Game Super Resolution upscales the quality of the image you see in VR and has a very low performance impact. For the Quest 2 and Pro, it only works on settings up to high and 90 FPS, and on the Quest 3 it works on any setting. Also keep in mind that if you have upscaling turned on inside a game settings menu as well, then this will upscale on top of your upscale, which is usually not great. I like to have this enabled and then turn off any in-game upscaling. Video buffering can help with occasional stutters in VR, but at the expense of added latency. I recommend you start with this off, as it added up to 15 milliseconds of latency for me in a modded Skyrim VR, which is a lot. If you can't solve jumpy gameplay in VR, try this on as a last resort. You can copy these three settings, and I like increased color vibrance and increased video nominal range for darker darks and brighter brights. The one you 100% want ticked though is this show performance overlay box. This will show how your setup is performing while you're in a VR game. Before you see that, if you launch a SteamVR game from this game menu, once you're in the game, hit the menu button on your left touch controller, then in the SteamVR dashboard's menu bar at the bottom, select the Steam button. Now click on this little VR headset on the bottom left, go to the video menu, next to render resolution, click manual, and then make sure you set the slider to 100%. You do this because Virtual Desktop is handling your resolution settings, and so if you crank this up, it's going to add this resolution boost on top of what you already have set in Virtual Desktop, which you don't want. None of the other visual quality settings here or in the SteamVR menu will make any difference. And lastly, you can of course change your in-game graphics settings depending on what game you're playing. These settings will again stack on top of what Virtual Desktop is providing you with. I like to set in-game graphics settings to high or max and then tweak Virtual Desktop's graphics settings around that. But it's up to you if you want to do it the other way around. Now to see how your setup is performing, click down both of the thumbsticks on your left and right touch controllers at the same time, and this will bring up the performance overlay, which was the box you ticked in the Virtual Desktop settings a moment ago. In here, you'll see the same settings as you set in both the Virtual Desktop Streamer app on your PC and the Virtual Desktop Home Environment streaming tab in your headset. The graphics quality or resolution is here, the frame rate you are currently running at in VR is here, and the bitrate is here. This is the bitrate you are currently running at, and this is the max bitrate of the codec you chose. You'll see what settings you chose for video buffering, automatic bitrate, and space warp, and whether your standalone router, if you're using the first setup I covered earlier, or your dedicated VR router is connected to your PC with an Ethernet cable. This needs to say yes unless you are using the sixth setup with your PC as a VR hotspot. Here is the runtime that's being used that you set in the Streamer app. And this is the Wi-Fi frequency band your headset is connected to. This should say 5 or 6 gigahertz, and then the maximum theoretical data transfer rate between your router and your VR headset. Again, for Quest 1, this should be 866 megabits per second, Quest 2 should be 1200 megabits per second, and Quest 3, 3S or Pro can be at 2400 megabits per second if you have a Wi-Fi 6, 6E or 7 router that has the additional 6 GHz band on it, and you're connected to a 160 MHz wide channel on the 5 or 6 GHz frequency bands. This latency number is the total amount of latency you are getting from all the places in this list here, and what you want is for these numbers to be white to ensure your experience is optimal. If they're orange, you're going to see some negative side effects in VR. Your game latency is how well your PC's GPU, aka graphics card, is rendering the game. If this is orange, lower the resolution and frame rate settings in Virtual Desktop, or lower the resolution or effects in the game you are playing. Encoding latency is how long it takes your PC's GPU to encode your gameplay before it's sent over Wi-Fi. Again, lowering the resolution and frame rate can help with this. Networking is the strain on your router and Wi-Fi network. So if this is lighting up, try reducing your streaming bitrate. And decoding is the time it takes for your headset's GPU to decode the streamed game so you see it in VR. If this is going orange, it means you are streaming too much data to your headset and it can't decode it all fast enough. In this case, lowering your resolution, FPS or bitrate can all help to reduce the amount of data that is hitting your headset at once. In terms of what good looks like, for slower games like Skyrim VR or Half-Life, under 50 milliseconds is acceptable, but around 40 milliseconds or less is what you're looking for. For faster games like Beat Saber, you really want to get this down to 30 milliseconds or less. At the end of the day, balance your settings based on whether you prefer visual clarity or higher FPS, depending on what type of game you are playing, your personal preference, and how powerful your PC is. If you have any issues or questions, hit me up in the comments below or go to vrdesktop.net and join the Virtual Desktop Discord community. It's an absolute must if you are using Virtual Desktop. And now you know how to set up and use Virtual Desktop, you can also try one of the free alternatives if you want to compare. And to do that, check the links in the description and go to the Steam link or Airlink setup and settings videos in this course. If you are going with Virtual Desktop and this course has helped you out, then please consider sharing to help others. And that's it for this video. You can help support this channel and get exclusive content over on Patreon. And if you like this video, then hit the like button, have your say in the comments below, and hit the XO logo to subscribe if you wanna. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.